Hopefully you've been following our story of John's heat pump disaster. This is the third episode in the series, so if you haven't seen parts 1 and 2, make sure you check those out first. Skill Builder has teamed up with Geek, and they're going to replace the heat pump. They're going to get it up and running to produce a system that's cheaper to run than a gas boiler. The first step in this process is to do a heat loss survey to select the right heat pump and design the system.
Whenever we do any job, we need to start off with doing a heat loss for the property, heat loss calculation. That means measuring every wall, entering all the different materials that the home is built with, and measuring the amount of heat that's escaping through every surface. So we can size the radiator, but more importantly, size the unit that's going outside, and it also specifies everything that's in here, including the size of pipe. So trying to specify anything in here without knowing that information is working in the dark, really. That's step number 1. We're going to be trying out a little tool we're making for the Heat Geeks to calculate that and make that much easier.
I'm just going to ask you one question, because although I can understand that you get the heat loss, the thermal losses from the building materials, what do you do about air changes? Because they're going to be so variable. Now, with a boiler, it modulates. Most combi boilers have got more than enough capacity to deal with anybody's heating.
Yeah.
But with a heat pump, you've got to get it right. We're always told you've got to get it right. So the air changes, to me, in many cases, are an unknown quantity.
Yeah, no, this is something we've been playing around with a lot over the last few years, because it varies so much, and because we've been historically using boilers and heat pumps that measure the actual heat loss and the output they're putting in. We've been able to feed that back in and cross-reference that against our heat losses. And what we found is the SIBSI recommendations of for houses this age of around about 1 to 2 air changes per hour are way over, and actually an air change of more like 0.5 to 0.7 is more accurate. So if you're double glazed everywhere, we bring it kind of down to the upper limits of that level. Anything between there, you're only talking about small amounts of losses anyway. We automatically trim that by looking at how well everything's sealed, essentially, and we half it.
Well, the only problem with that, of course, is mould. And that's not your subject, I know, but you are building in a whole problem there.
Yeah.
As soon as people want trickle vents, people don't want trickle vents, but they've got trickle vents, they don't open them. You know,
correct.
Then they suddenly got mould and condensation and all the rest of it. So
absolutely,
without MVHR, it's a tricky one.
That's true, but if you haven't had mould yet, I'm assuming that's not going to be a problem.
We've got vents in the traditional vents in the house are still there.
Yeah, I think that's also down to how people use it, isn't it? They need to know that they need to be turning on the extractor when they're using the hob. They need to know to be opening a window or extractor when they're using the shower, etc.
But you've got to factor that in.
You do if you're increasing the air tightness, and we're leaving the air tightness completely alone.
Okay.
What are your initial thoughts, Tom?
It looks pretty good, ready for go, I think. I think house feels nice and warm. I know the boiler's on and whatnot, but
Any
weather
is something. Any estimates before you do the heat loss?
No, I've not thought, to be honest. Yeah,
it's going to be 12.91 kilowatts.
Exactly that number. Right. Okay.
Tom is taking information such as the incoming fuse, main cutout fuse size, a spare way in the consumer board, which basically means a spare power outlet for the heat pump. However, we've already got one installed, so we'll just be using the current one. Really, for this job, we're checking that the current installation needs upgrading at all. It was installed properly. If we just sort of trusted what they put in, we might end up in a bad situation. So what he'd also be doing now is doing a maximum demand calculation, which is where you work out how much electrical draw the whole house takes entirely, so you don't pop the main cutout fuse whenever you run the heat pump, which is exactly what your first installer didn't do, which is why your main fuse kept on going out.
Left us in the dark.
How long did it take to get it swapped out?
It took a month or so, because I had to get Power Networks in and the electricity company to do the power coming into the house, and then all the work associated with that.
You were just getting someone to swap the fuse, and then they got upgraded after a month? Or what?
I think it was, I can't remember, to be honest. Yeah.
But once the fuse popped, was it? It wasn't just the trip switch, was it? It was actually the fuse needed swapping out.
No, it was a trip switch.
Oh,
there was a big one in there. It kept tripping out.
LCD.
Yeah. So they had to come and, as I say, Power Networks had to, as I understood it, increase the size of the pipe coming in.
Oh, really?
Yeah. because it hadn't been, it wasn't working basically.
How long were they here doing that?
What, the handover?
The pipe increase.
Oh, not very long. Didn't take very long.
It's the main cut fuse, I think, they're upgraded.
Yeah, I think that's probably the case. But I had to have both of them here at the same time.
Yeah, yeah.
Because
Yeah.
legally and handover,
Yeah.
there's a process they have to go through apparently, a legal process.
Don't have a car charger at the moment, but you might have one in the future, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
They'll have to do the same thing when they come and do a fuse upgrade. When they come and do their upgrades.
Who's that?
Whoever puts in a car charger
Oh,
will
I
have to
see.
do a maximum
Right.
demand calculation because they'll have to add what you're using at the moment to the new load.
Right.
Because car chargers take loads more energy than anything, much more than a heat pump.
Oh, right.
It's,
Okay.
it's, 7 kilowatts, whereas
Right.
a 12 kilowatt heat pump, which is probably going to install here, will take about 5. So he's also taking things like location of the stopcock in case we get caught out. What size connection is at the top of the steering stopcock?
15.
That's worth noting that, and I think we should add that to the app. I'm going to make that comment because if you've got 15mm coming off your stopcock, it can restrict your water pressure and your shower pressure's okay.
Well, they're okay. They're not amazing.
That's why your main
Because it's 15
from
mil.
there upwards.
Yeah, right.
It's strangling the flow basically.
Yeah. I did wonder about having a new water coming into the house to go into a water softener.
Well, the water main looks fine because it's 25mm, I think.
Yeah,
Just
I
on the
see.
torch in there.
Okay.
Yeah,
25mm? Oh, is it 20mm? Oh, it's a little bit, but it's plastic,
That'll
so
be
it's been
alright.
upgraded.
Yeah,
It's-
20 mils the same as 15 basically.
The main thing is
Well,
it's
that's
not lead
smooth,
because
isn't
lead squashes over time. And
I'm going to see what the pressures are by connecting my gauge. Someone's using something, is that 1.5? While the tap's running. We've done the electric section and now moved over to the water section. So we've got a picture of the stopcock and then we move down to the pressures. So going for static pressure, there we go, pictures in the app, and then that's working was 1.5, now static, so 2 and a bit really, and then we need to do flow rate now, so get wet. So then on the flow rate, we can just fill in the litres a minute once I've done a test. Lovely. Cool. Just got to go through the occupants and baths and whatnot, John. That's
Yeah.
all right. So just sort of how many of you here?
That's 2 of us.
2 of you.
Yeah.
Lovely. And then baths, as in
One that we got 2. What do you mean that we use?
actual
Or
baths. Yeah.
Oh, 2.
Bath, yeah, 2 baths.
yeah.
Lovely. And then showers.
God. 1, 2,
That's when
3,
you've made
4.
it, when you have to count
4.
your showers.
Yeah, sorry.
Super. And they're all on main.
Oh, still
so
one.
yeah.
I've still got one shower.
Lovely. And I've just got then got to go to the
Oh,
garage.
yeah.
Thank you for that. And I'll just look at the
Pipe loose to look after
location of the cylinder.
and maintain.
Cool. Thank you very much.
Sorry.
Tom's taken a load of details about the house.
Yep.
Like water pressure, electric, stuff like that, cylinder location, and now he's about to start the heat loss, which is where we measure all the walls, all the windows, all the surfaces to measure how much heat it's losing to the outside world. And he's going to do that with our new beta testing an app using LiDAR technology to measure those different surfaces and calculate it for him, rather than having to do longhand calculations like I started off doing, which speeds things up massively. So that's 9-inch brick, but this here is
Some like block or something similar.
is this solid floor here? I'm guessing?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then is it all solid floor? Right?
No, there's some suspended floor
Right.
in the.
This is going to be nice and testing for the app.
Yeah.
Mixed house. You can only
We've got some
Yeah.
some insulation under here, John.
Yeah.
we put the orientation correct. That's external, right?
Yeah.
That external. That is internal. This is building regs. Yeah, that is building regs. That is building regs. Yeah.
So these-
I'd go party wall for garage because garage would probably be about 10 degrees.
That's a good idea.
I mean, You could say external, but I still don't think it's, yeah, exactly.
Giving it more of a realistic.
Exactly.
How much time do you reckon that might save you then, Tom?
I did one yesterday, smaller house than this, and it took me, 3 hours?
Is that without the app?
Yeah, without the app. And I did one with the Heat Geek probably 2 days before, similar size house, and I'd scanned it in sort of, I think it was 25, 30 minutes. So I was down the pub well early.
So already from this one area, it's quite big, fair enough, but we've already got 2 kilowatts from one room, so, you know, it's going to be high. Scan it and we can add or remove this room, and we'll make a decision this room. This room is like completely glass, so it's incredibly wasteful to heat. That's why there's no heating in here, it's cold in here and he keeps the door closed.
There is a radiator in the corner.
There's radiators that are turned off. Because these hinder the convective effect of convective radiators, i.e. where it draws in cold air and allows hot air to shoot up, much like a chimney, they lower the heat output of the radiator by around 5%, which sounds small, but when it comes to dictating your flow temperature, which is what gives the efficiency of condensing boilers or heat pumps, it's actually quite a remarkable difference. This room, as you walk in, it feels colder. That cover is why. You've got a big treble convector radiator underneath here, which would create quite a lot of updraft had it not had a lid on it. So you can either, I mean, you can leave it like this and we can make it work, but if you want to squeeze more efficiency out, we either want like this type of maybe grill here, or no, you know.
You could do a modification like that.
That's the best modification. There's one that's even better than that though.
John, can you patent that?
There's another one that's better than that though. Actually, there's a couple of things here I've just noticed. So the other thing that it's not allowing is the radiant effect. So it can't radiate out if you can't, because it uses, that's a light wave. If you can't see, if you can't see the radiator.
The metal grill doesn't do it.
You're going to take losses. It's like a resistance every single time. The other thing that's the opposite of that undoes what I've just said, is that this is piped top, bottom, opposite ends, which is the old-fashioned way that we used to install radiators, rather than at the bottom and at the bottom, which allows heat to go up and then back down and leaves a little bit of a cold patch of lack of circulation. This is piped to the top here, which fills up the top of the radiator, and then it's taken out the bottom, and that actually adds the 5% back in. So it might work out. Regardless, it's still going to be less efficient with this. You can leave it in. I'm just kind of giving you the options. Yeah. And that's the whole point of any kind of decent system design. You can design it, but you know what you're sacrificing. Keep this in and have slightly less efficient system, or the opposite, which is fine. It's entirely up to you. You just need to know what your options are, rather than someone else who doesn't live here deciding for you. Yeah. Only one thing I wanted to do was check that was the flow, because if that's the return, this is the most inefficient way to install a radiator. This is nice and warm up here, it's nice and cold there, so you get a nice delta across it. Actually, I don't think there's quite enough flow to this radiator, to be honest. There's too much delta between the flow and return. But yeah, that is a more efficient way to install a radiator.
It's never been very efficient, this radiator.
This hasn't got enough flow. We should have a delta T, so flow temperature difference between here and here of 5 degrees. This is room temperature. I'd say your delta T across there is like 15 or something like that.
And is anything can be done about it?
Yeah, we just need to make sure your pump is turned up and balance down any overflowing radiators. So if your temperature difference is too narrow elsewhere, we turn down those radiators, which force more flow to this radiator. So the reason this room feels cooler is, one, because of this, but this is a much bigger impact. If we have a wider delta T from flow to return, the average temperature of the radiator, or mean water temperature, is lower, therefore its output is less, and it won't give enough into the room.
It's never been very efficient, ever.
Yeah, I think it's just a flow thing.
Yeah.
Which is fixable.
Good.
We'll get all this done in the one go through.
We've got to get new carpets anyway, so looks like a good.
Are you going to lose the cover then, or?
Probably, yeah. Yes.
I quite like traditional features, to be honest, but when it comes to efficiency, I can't help myself. He has 22mm plastic underfloor heating installed. So that doesn't sound right, because you can't bend it, so you can't have that sort of underfloor. So I'm not too sure what this does, unless it tees off and whatever it is, it's been hatched together. It's not been installed properly at all.
Let's have a look under here. This ball. Yeah, it's a bit of blown fibre in there, and the trouble with that blown fibre is it does blow around as well over the years, so it's not evenly distributed. But it's only at best 2 inches thick.
Right.
So we're now looking for 9 inches, 12 inches, 300 millimetres of loft insulation. So you can see that you need another 10 inches in there just to.
Yeah.
But even if you didn't come up to modern standards, putting another load in, another 6 inches all over would definitely be worthwhile. Definitely transform this space. It's difficult though because it's all boarded out, so all those boards have got to be lifted. Not everybody's favourite job.
That's another reason why your running costs are high. I'll tell you what we're going to be able to do, John, is actually we're going to be able to create 2 versions of your house in our digital app, and we're going to be able to say insert your loss. Your loft, that's going to be heat loss, and this is going to be your savings. And remember, you're going to lose less heat, so that's less energy, and your flow temperature from your heat pump can be lower, so it'll be more efficient as well. And that will calculate your savings. And then we can give you your current version. You can work out your payback, but I think it's going to be pretty clear what.
Yeah, it's a decision we made to do. It's just finding someone to do it, and whether I wanted to do it or I just haven't had time.
But the reason I say that, John, is because it will make a difference to what. It might even make a difference to what heat pump we fit. It could be that market sort of difference.
Well, I wouldn't mind getting it done sooner rather than later. It's just a question of I'd have to find someone to do it.
Yeah.
I think if you did this by hand, this property, because there's so many different types of surfaces and different updates, to go and measure every window, measure every external door, every wall, every surface, multiply by its U value, and then multiply by the temperature difference between outside and inside. Add all that together, that would take a couple of days, I would guess, if you wanted to work sensible hours. It looks like we're probably going to get through this within about 2.5 hours, and we're going to be able to adjust the models instantly, which is going to save hours again. The app's not quite there yet at all, but it's a massive step forward. Does anyone remember what I estimated the heat loss would be?
1291, I think.
I said 12.91, you had that on camera. The heat loss of this property is 12.97, unfortunately, so I was completely out. I was 600 watts out, but I think this should be lower because you really need. I didn't know you had no loft insulation, so actually I was quite far out there.
Can you calculate it with the loft insulation?
That's exactly what we're going to do. So I'm going to submit this survey, which locks us in. We've done the heat loss, as we said. We captured that bit. 12.97, which is good because it means you're going to just need a normal size or the largest heat pump there is really on domestic market before we have to go to 3-phase. And we can put that exactly where your other one is. Slightly taller, it looks a lot nicer though.
Oh yeah, that's a lot quieter.
Oh yes, so much quieter.
I'll ask the neighbour to be the judge of that.
Yeah, exactly. It does, it'll have to sit off the wall a tiny bit further for full clearances. I've checked out, so you know this air movement. It's a slight concern, but we're the ones providing the guarantee. I think we'll be absolutely fine with that, to be quite honest. You've got complete open end one end. I mean, we've got a video on this where we've completely covered it in blankets and it wasn't a problem.
I saw that.
It's only when it's only when you've got certain shaped areas where it forces the air back round and creates like a whirlwind. I think that's the best place because you also want the amount of pipework outside before it goes in, absolutely minimal. We don't want pipework outside if we can avoid it. So it has to be 200 mil off this wall. We can go out there and measure it before you, on the way out the door. Unfortunately, our survey isn't submitting. This is a bug we've found with our software. That's fine, that's what it's all about, testing the bugs and fixing them. But what I can already tell you from the radiator sizes and from the kilowatts lost from each room, the radiators are big enough to run a heat pump at a nice low flow temperature, which should be much cheaper than gas to run based on that ratio of radiator size to heat loss.
So we need to get the insulation sorted in the older part of the house.
This 12.97 kilowatts is with no insulation essentially really in the old part.
Yeah.
If we up that to 300 mil, it should drop a couple of kilowatts, I reckon, something like that.
We're talking about loft insulation here, by the way, for those people who don't know. It's the loft insulation which is woefully inadequate in up there.
Yeah, absolutely, and also the easiest to fix, thankfully.
Yeah.
And then if you do that may affect what we do specs. Once this does submit, I'll be able to do System Design 1 and you'll see payback or whatever, and System Design 2. And if there's nothing in it, you say, I'll do the loft, but I could do it afterwards because you're using the same heat pump anyway. And maybe we'll do a Zoom call so I can kind of show you what the difference is there. We had a wander round. Everything looks straightforward. The only slight concern was your manifold upstairs in the bathroom, which we got a shot of, has 22mm plastic connected to it rather than 15mm plastic. So I'm guessing it must be teed off and then teed into smaller pipes to feed through the floor or something. But it's not been installed correctly, essentially. So and what has been installed is buried in the floor. I've no concern about us getting it working. It's just not ideal, really. But we can kind of play with that sort of stuff and optimise it while we're here and get it, as good as we can get it going. I don't think it's not going to work. It's about this optimisation, getting this squeezing last bits of percentage out. But that's it. So yeah, you've not got a massive. The heat pump out there is sized correctly currently, which is a nice surprise. Don't normally see that very often on poor installs. I really don't see this as a challenge at all. See, it has to sit off the wall a little bit further.
Yeah, no, I get that. Yeah.
In fact, actually, we'll have to go off the wall a little bit further than that.
The problem is, what's not a problem, of course, is that heat pump set back on its place anyway.
Are you going to have to check the foundations when the new one goes in?
We might have to lay a bit of more concrete underneath that. Yeah, but we'll put like a half a guttering or something to make sure there's any water that needs to move through that can move through there.
That's it still means it's a lot wider than the door.
Yeah, it's going to be here.
Yeah, no, I got that.
So
are you saying it's better to move it, or we have to move it?
We can move it.
I mean, I'm just wondering what's ultimately you want to do what's best.
Down for efficiency, I think it will be negligible, but maybe even if it's a small amount, it's still worth doing.
As you say, it compounds up, doesn't it?
Let me get a picture. I'm going to get the picture here for now. Yeah, maybe we do move it along.
Sorry.
Place, cancel. I'll just get a picture of that there for the moment. Let's also get these in the centre. Does it looks like it's wider down here to me?
All the way down.
Oh, is it?
It may be wider on the gravel side.
Well, that's what I was thinking. If it does come, it's coming out that much further, basically. So at least you feel like you've got more room as you're walking through.
Yeah, that's what I'm wondering.
All right,
does
well,
look
that
wider
feels
there,
like it's
doesn't
that yeah, it is. That
wider.
feels like it's good enough reason to move it down to me.
There you go.
Added to the fact that there may be a bit more airflow here.
Yeah.
Oh, well, if you're going to move it down to there, then I was going to say I'll do the concrete base.
Yeah, that would be helpful.
But you just have to tell me where you want it, basically, and what you want.
Yeah, so what we need is where those 2 feet, it'll be basically the same spacings of those 2 feet down there.
Will it?
Just need to have something solid underneath.
Yeah.
That's
all right.
With whatever. I'll make sure the spacings are before you go and do it. I'll message you and tell you what the feet spaces are.
Yeah. No, I need a
No, that'd be helpful, thank you.
I need a drawing. I can't.
All right, yeah, we'll send you a drawing. Yeah, perfect.
Just say that, and then where you want it here.
Yeah, I think.
Tell me.
I mean, yeah, it's kind of up to you for us.
You can tell me where. And then you want some kind of drain for the condensate, basically, don't you?
Yeah. Well, we can just take it into this sort of gravel.
I'll see. I'll have a look at it because this has got a rainboard. I'd rather have it as a.
Oh, if you could drop it into the rainboard,
I'd rather that would be great because I don't like it when it floods out all over the path. And
no, that's the only reason I'm saying we could do it in there because I don't think it would be enough to flood out in the path. But if there's rainwater there, that guarantees it. So that's a much better solution.
Into the bottom of the house.
That's a better solution. Yeah.
Get rid of it. I'll just put an echo in there.
Water's no good near a house, is it?
This is what I tripped over on Friday night.
Oh, you fell over?
Yeah, I got a graze from my bloody foot right up to my knee.
God.
I was hoping it was going to be the heat pump you tripped over because we haven't had our first heat pump injury yet, have we?
No.
So in the next episode, we're going to feature the installation of the new heat pump. But if you want a little bit more from this survey, the guys had a little roundtable chat. So click on the link to see that video. And if you don't want to miss the next part, of course, you can subscribe to Skill Builder, hit the bell notification. While you're at it, why not sign up for our newsletter?